To everybody watching this, how many things can you really do in this society where you don't have to prove who you are? Kamala Harris is back at it again. She just won't go away. She's like a freaking cockroach. But she's up there whining and complaining about voter ID again. So let me play this video, and then I'll give you my opinion on the other side.
This president is trying to push this SAVE Act, which basically would require that for people to register to vote, you're going to have proof of who you are through a passport, which a lot of Americans don't have, or a birth certificate. Same point, obstacles to make it difficult for you to register to vote. And then you got the states. 19 states have already passed laws to make it more difficult to vote. And the ones that haven't passed a law are doing it in practice in many places around our country. Why? Because they're scared of you. They are scared of your power. This president.
So I'm going to play the first part one more time, and then we're going to do a deep dive into that particular thing, because I've talked about it before, but let's touch on it again. Pause.
Is trying to push this SAVE Act, which basically would require that for people to register to vote, you're going to have proof of who you are.
Pause right there. Pause right there. So, to everybody watching, she just said the president, this president is pushing this SAVE Act, which means that in order to vote, you're going to have to prove who you are. To everybody watching this, how many things can you really do in this society where you don't have to prove who you are? How many? How many things can we literally do? Do you realize that in order for us to do anything, in most places, in most circumstances, everywhere we go, we have to show an ID. The only way to get an ID is you got to have a birth certificate. So when she says that you got to show a passport, which most Americans don't have, you'd be surprised how many Americans have a passport. In fact, let me look it up real quick. How many Americans have a passport? An estimated 48 to 53% of Americans hold a valid passport. So half of Americans have a passport. Half. She literally said most Americans don't have a passport. That's what she said. She said most Americans don't have a passport. And this is just to give you an idea of how much they lie. Like, they love to get on social media and television and just lie through their teeth. And then, just so everybody know I'm not capping, let me, what did LeVar Burton say? You don't have to take my word for it, right? So I just looked it up right there. Right here. It says 48 to 53% of Americans hold a valid passport. The U.S. Department of State reports that 183,170,240 valid U.S. passports are in circulation, including both passport books and cards, a massive increase from the roughly 5% ownership rate seen in 1990. So in 1990, only 5% of Americans had passports, but now half of Americans have passports. So she can't sit here and say most Americans don't have passports. That's a lie. Now, I wanted to point that out, but that's irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant, because she went on to say that most Americans don't have their birth certificate. I've been saying this over and over and over and over again. Every last one of us here in America, in American culture, when we are kids, when we're teenagers, right? At some point, we're going to want to get a little after school job, or we're going to want to get our driver's license. For every last one of us Americans, when we're 15 and 16 years old and we want to get a part-time job after school, or we want to start driving and get our license, what do we have to take to that DMV, y'all? What do we have to take down to that DMV? In fact, showing proof of your identity to vote should be easy, considering the level of scrutiny you go through at the damn DMV. Do you have any idea what they require at the DMV for you to get your ID or your license? Don't you find it interesting that they put you under more scrutiny to get identification than they do for you to vote for the people who run this country? Why are these politicians talking to the American people as if we are stupid? Do you genuinely think that the vast majority of Americans don't have their birth certificate or access to their birth certificate? How ridiculous is that statement? When have you ever went anywhere and didn't see a massive amount of traffic? Cars everywhere, people driving everywhere. How are they driving? Because we all know you ain't getting no driver's license without your birth certificate. How are all of these people going to liquor stores and buying liquor? Because you ain't buying no liquor without your identification, and you ain't getting no identification without a birth certificate. How are these people catching flights? Do you realize that the statement she made is so epically stupid that if what she said was true, numerous industries would not even be able to function in this country because of the sheer amount of agencies, businesses, services that require you to show an ID. In fact, when you go back to the 90s, if you're a Gen Xer, you remember this. There were a lot of Americans that were complaining about the fact that everywhere you went, you had to show an ID. Everywhere you went, you had to show an ID. In fact, recently, they came out with real ID. And in order to get a real ID, you got to go back down to the DMV and you got to show them some extra paperwork. But back in the 90s, there were Americans who felt like Big Brother was being too intrusive. And they were saying, look, we shouldn't have to show our identification everywhere we go. And you know what Big Brother said? Big Brother said, shut the hell up. We don't care. Show your ID. We don't care. One of the biggest reasons ID became a big thing is because back in the 80s, a parent could literally send their 8-year-old child, their 10-year-old child into a store with a note and some money to buy them some cigarettes. Many of us Gen Xers have been sent in the store with money. Go on in that store and get me a pack of Newports. Many of us, by the time we got old enough, we knew what all the cigarette brands were. We knew what brand our aunties smoked. We knew what brand our uncle smoked. I can tell you right now, my uncle is a Salem man. He smoked Salem cigarettes. A lot of us younger dudes, we was Newport guys. A lot of the white guys, Marlboro, right? A lot of the women, the aunties, Virginia Slims. We know. You know how we know? Because they used to send in the store to buy the cigarettes until the government cracked down on that and said, no, from now on, when somebody come in your store, if they look like they are younger than, 30 or 25 years old, you gotta ID them. They literally made a mandate for all of the stores you go to, these gas stations, all of that. They even got little signs up there that they can look at that has the year of someone that's at least a certain age, so that they ain't got to look at the ID and try to calculate it. So you literally have stores all across America that was mandated. In fact, if somebody came into your store that was with whatever department, I don't know, it probably, what was it, ATF? It could have been the ATF because it's alcohol, firearm, tobacco, and firearms, right? I'm guessing the ATF. If an undercover agent came into your store that looked young, or sent somebody in that store that was young, that was 18, or sent somebody in that store that was 17, and you sold them alcohol or tobacco without IDing them, that shut you down. How are you doing it? Everywhere you go, you have to show identification. If you want to rent an apartment, you have to show identification. You want to buy a car, you have to show identification. You want to open up a bank account, you have to show identification. You want to buy cigarettes, you got to show identification. You want to buy liquor, you got to show identification. You want to catch a plane, you got to show identification. You want to buy something that you're financing, you got to show identification. You want to buy a car, you got to show identification. You get pulled over, you got to show identification. When did we exist? When do we live in a world where you don't got to show identification? In fact, if you really want to be honest, the fact that you don't have to show identification in certain states in order to vote for the people who run this country is the dumbest ever. You mean to tell me Rent-A-Center in the ghetto, or the check cashing place in the ghetto, or the title loan place in the ghetto has higher scrutiny than the voting process? Are you serious? And you literally got people on the left, you literally got Democrats arguing this. Literally. It's like the people that get mad at those First Amendment auditors. You know, those guys that go out in front of the post office, or they go out somewhere in public and they got a camera and they're recording. There's always some dumb that walks up to them. So why are you recording? I didn't give you my permission to be recorded. I didn't give you my consent to be recorded. You're being recorded everywhere you go. When you walk in a store, you're being recorded. When you're in the Walmart parking lot, you're being recorded. When you're driving down the street, you're being recorded. Everywhere you go, you're being recorded. Dummy. Bro, something has got to be done about these Democrats, bro. Something has got to be done about these Democrats. You want to buy a gun, you got to show your ID. Damn near everything you do. You want to get a job, you got to show your ID. You want to get a job, you got to show up with your ID and your Social Security card. They're going to take your ID and your Social Security card and they're going to go Xerox a copy of it. Bro, I've literally ordered stuff that came to my house and had to show my ID for it. Order something from Apple. Order something from Apple. Order a laptop. Order an iPhone. Hell, order some AirPods. That delivery guy is going to show up at the door. He's going to knock on the door and he's going to be like, you have your ID? Tell me I'm lying. Somebody tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm full of it. Matter of fact, there's certain websites. You got to prove your identity for the websites. If you've ever used any of these crypto websites or whatever, and you want to transfer some money, or you know what they ask you? To take a picture of the front of your ID and the back of your ID. Your ID, hands down, is one of the most important items. And considering the fact that you can't get an ID without your birth certificate, that makes your birth certificate even more important than the damn ID. So what in the holy hell is Cackle's Kamala talking about? And who on this planet is still taking her seriously?